As Omicron cases continue to surge, the U.S. Surgeon General and data used by the CDC say that we may have not yet seen the worst of it. This, of course, as the Biden administration is racing to make 400 million N95 masks available to the public and start sending out those at-home rapid test kits this week. That's going to be really important. Joining us now is former U.S. Surgeon General Jerome Adams, who is also the Executive Director of Health Equity Initiatives at Purdue University College of Pharmacy. Dr. Adams, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us.
Great to be here with you today.
According to the data used by the CDC, 51 states and territories could see greater than a 50% chance of having more deaths now compared to the 2 weeks prior, and yet hospital admissions are expected to decline. So this is really a $64,000 question, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, but here we are 2 years into this pandemic. Can you see any kind of light at the end of the tunnel?
I do see light at the end of the tunnel, and here's why. We're finding out that these vaccines are actually incredibly protective. The initial bar for vaccine approval was 50% protection against hospitalization and death. So even with waning immunity, we still far surpass that bar. It's just that they started out at 95%. So people are judging it against where it started. That's number one. Number two, 500,000 doses of vaccine being administered every single day. We always knew we'd hit a point in the curve where you'd level off, but we're still continuing to get people vaccinated and boosted. And that's that engagement that I continue to talk about we need to do. So I'm actually optimistic about what's going to happen after we get through a rough next probably 3 to 5 weeks with Omicron.
Pfizer, now Moderna, have announced that participants in clinical trials for an Omicron-specific vaccine have been dosed finally. Do you think an Omicron vaccine is needed, given that we may pass the peak in the next couple of weeks?
Well, we need to change the language on this. It's a vaccine that will be based on the Omicron variant. And Omicron has 50 different mutations. So a vaccine based on that variant is likely to help us respond to future variants. That said, we're going to be past the Omicron surge by the time we get an Omicron booster out. So we should call it a multivalent booster and not a Omicron booster. I also feel strongly the CDC needs to change the definition of fully vaccinated to 3 doses. We always knew that non-live vaccines would likely need 2 to 3 doses. Based on every other vaccine we've had, should be 3 doses, you're fully vaccinated, and then we do a fall update just like we do with flu.
You were the Surgeon General during the Trump administration, which took a lot of heat for its handling of this pandemic. Where do you rate the Biden administration's handling of COVID-19 so far?
Well, let me be clear. Almost 400,000 people died during 2020. That's unacceptable. The American people deserved better. They expected better. And so now let's do an objective assessment of the Biden administration. Masking. They said that vaccinated people no longer needed to mask, and they didn't provide high-quality masks until recently. And so the actual number of people effectively masking is down. Testing. It went down under the Biden administration in 2021. Availability of treatments is essentially none in the community, as far as I know, and I work in the hospitals. You can't get treatment. And vaccines, I do want to give the Biden administration credit for rollout of vaccines, particularly to Democratic areas. But the outreach to Republicans has been poor. We still have many minorities unvaccinated, and our booster rates, as you mentioned, are abysmal, mostly because of the mismessaging. So objectively speaking, on every outcome measure, deaths, hospitalizations, booster rates, number of people masking, you can't say that they've done a great job. That said, Dr. Walensky, I spoke with her recently. She's fighting hard to make sure the CDC is at the forefront. And I think the Biden administration needs to put Dr. Walensky and the CDC in the front. The Trump administration had 10 times as many, NPR said this, 10 times as many CDC briefings as the Biden administration did last year. We need to put the scientific people in the forefront, and not let them get embroiled in policy.
And Doctor, just quickly before we go, because people are watching this, they're listening to you, they're listening to Dr. Jen, Dr. Fauci, they're hearing all this information, they're hearing that there may be a peak, that we may be able to breathe a little bit easier come March or April. What is your best advice for people hearing all of this information? What should people be doing now, and should they be hopeful at all?
Find someone you trust. Dr. Jen is a great person to listen to. She's someone who I always turn to and tell my family to turn to. Get vaccinated and get boosted. Because once you get there, you're going to have that high level of protection against hospitalization and death. And once we get our under 5s vaccinated, then everyone will have an opportunity to protect themselves. I think we actually have a brighter spring and summer ahead once we get through a really tough next couple of weeks. We've all got to pull together for these next couple of weeks. Wear your mask, get your booster, do the things we know will get us through this surge and protect our healthcare capacity. And then I think we'll actually be in a better place.
All right, former U.S. Surgeon General Jerome Adams, sir, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.